All right, let's do this. We are back. We are back in the usual location for Wednesdays live in the tribe. So if you're checking this out, if you're watching it live, please let me know that you're here. Say live, say what's up, say hey, say yo, say all of it, whatever it. Say something. Type something in the chat. Let me know you're here. And as soon as I know people are here, we're going to kick off or we're going to get started. Okay. So, been dealing with some technical difficulties the last couple of weeks. And then I've also been super busy on some things, and I've not wanted to allocate any of my bandwidth towards correcting my internet signal for live in the tribe. So I've been doing them upstairs, but we're back. We're back. We're here. Let's do this. Okay. So is anybody here? So what we're doing is we're going into Tom the Trainer's tribe, and we are answering questions for you in the tribe. We got a few questions. I'm going to give you as much value as I possibly can while providing the answer to these questions. I'm going to ramble. I'm going to rant. You know me. I'm probably going to tell a bad joke or something. You might not laugh. I'm going to think it's funny. And that's all that matters, right? So let's do this. See, I already told my bad joke. Let me know you're here. Say what's up. Okay, so first question that I have in this week's Live in the Tribe Q&A in my free Facebook group where I answer all the questions for the members. Absolutely free. I got, I have, Helena is asking, stubborn 3 kilograms. Actually, of this, actually, as of today, it's a stubborn 4 kilograms. My diet is not horrendous, but it's not terrible, and it's not bad enough to account for that. Water intake is good. Sleep is not great, but better than it was a couple of months ago. Activity levels are good. Gym, active at job, I'm active lifestyle. What might be the missing link? Okay. So, I need to like almost even just like write this down, right? So if you're dieting and you are keeping your activity levels high, you are hitting the gym regularly, your cardio is staying consistent, your activity levels at work are consistent, and you're not losing any more weight, you're no longer in a calorie deficit. That's the only way that this can happen. Okay. So, what that means is a few things. Eating healthy, to me, the answer to this is in the question. And the biggest flag, the biggest stone that I would turn over here and lift under that big rock and say, what's this under here? Is my diet is not her. It's not perfect. It's not terrible, but it's not bad enough to account for 4 kilograms. There is a lot of gray in that statement, right? That statement is lacking definitiveness regarding what your diet is. Okay. So, what that means is you don't really truly know what your caloric intake is. At least that's my interpretation of what you're asking. Right. This reminds me of like the Trump meme where he's like, I'm probably gonna, I'm not really sure, but I definitely will. We've all seen it, right? It sounds like there's uncertainty surrounding what your diet is. Okay. Now, if you've lost a significant amount of weight, you can get to a certain level of weight loss and you can get into a certain level of conditioning by eating better, by making healthier choices. Okay. At some point in time, that gravy train goes empty, right? The well runs dry in the success of which you will get from making healthier choices. Okay. You know, and if those choices are like, I eat a bit less carbohydrates, not the carbohydrates are the issue, but when you eat a bit less carbohydrates, you just naturally lower your caloric intake. I'm going to eat more vegetables and less carbohydrates. That's the only thing I'm going to change in my diet. I'm going to change. My diet is going to be exactly the same as it ever was, as it ever will be. Fuck, I'm on a roll today. I get the vibes from in here, apparently, right? With my stupid jokes. So my diet's as good as it ever was and good as it ever will be. And I'm not changing anything except for I am actually just going to always mindfully look at the carbohydrate portion of which I have available to me. I'm going to eat half of that and I'm going to replace that with vegetables. Boom. You're going to lose weight from that because your calories are just going to drop. Okay. Unless you were drastically gaining weight fast, then you might just hold your weight there. Okay. But let's say you've been living life, maybe not your best life because you want to lose some weight. So you've been living your not so best life. And all you do is make better, more aware choices with your food with an intention of losing weight. You're going to lose some weight. Okay. What's going to happen though is for every pound of body weight you have, there's a caloric cost to maintain. Okay. As you start to lose weight, you don't have that caloric cost anymore. Every pound that you lose is 3,500 less calories at cost of your body. So you don't change anything, and all of a sudden, boom, you're going to just hit that plateau. There's no way that you can bust through that plateau unless you have absolute awareness surrounding food. Okay. So there's some awareness surrounding food, which is going to be like, I'm aware of what I'm taking in, and I'm going to try to make some healthy choices, some better choices, right? I'm going to drink less pop. I'm going to drink less beer. I'm just going to switch to diet pop. I'm going to eat less carbohydrates and I'm going to eat more vegetables, right? Hell, I'm going to stop eating 4 pieces of bacon with breakfast every day and only have 3 eggs, right? Whatever. There's some awareness around your food. Absolute awareness around your food is I'm eating 2,200 calories per day. I'm not eating 2,200 calories per day, but maybe that's where you would be. I'm eating a lot of calories right now. I don't know if y'all notice watching this, but like starting to get a little bit water buffalo here on this bulk. But anyways, so my absolute awareness is this is how many calories I'm eating. This is how many grams of protein I'm eating. This is how many grams of carbohydrates I'm eating. This is how many grams of fats I'm eating. Okay. So what are some levers that we can play here? Well, the majority of your success when it comes to losing fat is going to come around calories, protein. Okay. You lock in your calories, you lock in your protein. So your calories are going to, let's say, be 10 to 12 calories per pound of body weight. Okay, you got that locked in. Your protein is going to be 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay, got that locked in. Now, as long as my carbohydrates and my fats don't spill over my intake for calories in the day, I'm good. I'm going to lose weight. That's one thing. So you've played the lever of I'm going to be more aware. The next lever is I'm going to be really aware. I'm changing what I'm saying, but whatever. I do this on the spot. Deal with me. I'm going to be really aware with what I eat. calories, protein, I have a cutoff. Okay, cool. That's going to get you to a certain level. Now you want to get to the best level. You want to be the best like 2.0 version of you. You want to be like the 3.0 version of you, right? What are your calories? What is your protein? What is your carbohydrates? What is your fat intake level? And then if you want to get to 4.0 version, when are you timing your foods? Okay. So you could probably quite easily bust through your plateau by tracking your food for the next 5 days with absolute awareness around your food. Okay. Track your food for 5 days. Divide it by 5. That's your daily caloric average. Pull, you're holding there. Depending on how much you weigh, you're going to pull some of those calories. If you're just a little itty bitty person, you probably don't want to pull 200 or 300 calories from your diet. Because if you're a little itty bitty person who's like, I don't know, 130 pounds or something, and you want to get in better shape, pulling 200 calories out of your diet when your diet's already only like 1,300 or 1,500 calories or 1,200 calories sucks. You're eating, like, I think I give Iris more calories per day, right? My dog Iris. So, like, in this circumstance, I would say pull 10% of your calories out per day. What was your caloric average? Pull 10, 15% max. Don't change anything. You will lose more weight. Now, the other thing here that I noticed in this question, there's no definitiveness in a lot of the things that you say, okay? So, and this is just how I dissect things, right? My water intake is good. Okay. I believe it is, because Helena, you've been in the tribe for a while, so you know what's up as I take a sip of water. But your water intake is good. I've had people tell me when I'm on a call with them, I'm like, hey, do you drink a lot of water? And they're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, cool. Yeah. How much is a lot? And they're like, oh, like 3 glasses per day. Well, okay, cool. I don't correct them. I'm not like, you're wrong, because they're going to be like, F you, right? But you're just like, okay, cool. Context. Don't say a word. I understand. Okay. Your water intake is good. My definition of good water intake is 3 liters per day. That's my definition of good water intake. For men, I will jack it up to as much as 5 liters per day in an aggressive cut. For women, I will get it as high as 4 liters per day in an aggressive cut. Now, my activity levels are good. Okay. Again, not a lot of definitiveness in that statement, right? But this is what I do. So, okay, cool. Do you have a step tracker? What are your steps per day? Okay, cool. Do you have a step tracker? What are your steps per day? Got it. Okay. How many days per week do you train? Consistently, right? Like, I train 6 days per week. Well, like, sometimes you peel back the layers of the onion on people, and it's like, well, no, actually you train 3 to 6, right? So therefore, there's a lack of consistency in your caloric expenditure in the day. Okay. So how many times per week do you train bare minimum? And what's the intensity level when you're training? What's your food? What is exactly your water? What exactly is your daily average step count over the course of the week? Exactly how many days a week do you train? How long are those training sessions? How intense are they? Are you keeping that consistent? Right? Are you doing cardio? What is your cardio? Generally, that kind of all like sort of comes out in the wash when it comes to your step count. But you could then play the card of cardio. Okay. But if I were, first and foremost, let's put it this way, as I go on my long ass ramble and rant. But let's put it this way. When I take on a client, the very first thing that I do is I make their meal plan. I upload their meal plan. I upload their training. I set them with a daily step count goal. I set them with a sleep goal of 7 hours. I set them with a water intake goal. And then that's it. That's all. But the first thing I do is I make them a meal plan and I send it. Okay. So if I were looking at this question, the number one lever, the biggest lever that you can pull, it's going to give you the biggest payoff, like pulling a lever on a slot machine. But this isn't a gamble because it's actually going to work because I'm hooking you up, is nail down your diet. Have absolute predictability. Change the language of I eat not horrendous, not perfect, but not terrible. Change the language of I eat 1,700 calories per day. And I have one weekly cheat meal, like whatever it may be, right? Obviously, everybody knows by now, shameless plug, but you know what? I can shamelessly plug my stuff. You're here listening to me. I'm hooking you up. So, shameless plug. I eat 1,700 calories per day. I use the luxury lifestyle allowance because it's the shit. It allows for me to have a cheat meal every single week, and I have a cheat meal every single week. 1,700 calories per day and 170 grams of protein, 150 grams of fats, and I don't know, 40 grams or 150 grams of carbs and 40 grams of fats. Those numbers won't add up, but you get where I'm going here, right? Now, woo, I'm going to roll. Sometimes if you're not cycling calories like I do on the luxury lifestyle allowance, you will hit a plateau even knowing exactly what your food intake is, even technically supposed to be being in a calorie deficit based on your body weight and your size and your activity levels. Your metabolism slows down. It's called metabolic adaptation. My system prevents that from happening because I send a signal to the body 1 day per week where we feast and it's glorious and it's beautiful and we eat a bunch of food. We send a signal to our metabolism to not slow down, and that can prevent that plateau under circumstances of like, I know all the details of things, if that makes sense. Taking it off now. All right. So I have to go back to doing my lives down here, not sitting on the couch, because clearly I'm feisty today. Okay. Was that really helpful, everybody listening? All right. So next question that I have is from Dan. Dan says, I hurt my lower back on a hack squat machine years ago, and I've sworn off any kind of squats except body weight squats since. Should I give it another try, or are there better alternatives for quads? I believe that some variation of a squat should be mandatory in all training programs, period. Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean barbell squat. That doesn't necessarily mean, like, do you know what I mean? The barbell squat is the most advanced version of the squat. You got to really have some skill and know how to move. Dan, hit me up with a message. Anybody listening to this on the podcast, message me on Facebook. The description will be in the link. Say squat course. I got a free squat course. If you're watching this on Instagram, I'm back. A lot of the times, Squats are not bad for your back. If you squat bad, it will be bad for your back. Okay. I don't have all the context behind how to advise you specifically, Dan, when you say you hurt your back. I don't know how you hurt your back. I don't know what rehab you've done for your back. I don't know your daily movement qualities. Do you move like an athlete while you move? So is your back actually like in less pain now than it was, and you're just afraid of squatting because there is like some psychological connection to, oh, I got hurt there, right? Same as like if you've ever been in a car accident in an intersection and you drive by that intersection, you go, you pucker your butthole a little bit every time you drive by that intersection, right? Till you drive by it enough times and you're like, oh, I'm not so puckered, right? So if your back is not hurt, then squatting should be in your program, and you should be looking to progressively squat more and more and more. Now, to progress the squat, this is why the squat course is so bomb. So make sure you ask for it. Message me squat course. To progress your squat, there's regressions all the way down to like box squat. Like I sit down on a bench and I stand up. I load that with a dumbbell. I get rid of the bench, right? I do an air squat. I load that with a dumbbell. I get rid of that. I put a barbell on my back, right? On a bench. I get rid of the bench. I keep the barbell on my back. I start loading weight, and you build the skill of squatting. But it is a highly, highly, highly skilled exercise. And I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit here, but like I am telling you, I can't tell you the number of times that I've even been in gyms, corporate gyms, and watched trainers. I came from a corporate gym and would watch trainers teaching their clients how to squat. And it was just like, oh my God, that person's going to blow up. It's a highly skill-based exercise and you need to master it. So you need to be taught it well. So should you be using squat variations? I think absolutely you should. Personally, I think you need to master the exercise though. So you studying how to squat, i.e. my squat course, i.e. YouTube, or so many other things, you studying how to squat and perfecting the squat is really what you should be focusing on, in my opinion. Finding out where your capabilities are and rolling with that, and then progressing those capabilities. Time under tension, how fast you move through the exercise, distance, your range of motion in the exercise, and load, how much weight you're moving. Okay. As you get stronger in all those categories that I listed on the way to progressing the squat, you graduate from one to the next. Like, cool, I graduated from a box squat with my body. Now and hey, you know what? I've taken the biggest dumbbells possible and I can do a box squat. I'm bouncing around here like a maniac in the live, but I can do as many squats as I can do, as big of a weight that I can hold on to, and do a box squat like with a goblet with a weight in front. Cool. I've graduated from that. Now I'm doing air squats, and hey, my air squats are fine. I learned I did them and they're fine. Cool. Now I'm loading with a dumbbell. And oh, I've graduated from that. Now I'm going to try putting a barbell on my back. That didn't feel so good. That's not it. I shouldn't do that. Okay, right? Now what do? Oh, I'm going to slow down on my goblet squats. It's because I can't add any more load. So I'm going to slow down the goblet squat. I'm going to move slower. I'm going to pause in the bottom, right? I'm going to keep the tension constant because I'm not going to pause at the top. I'm just going to bounce up and down fluently. Those are a way to progress it. Squats are an absolute must for leg development. What variation is dependent, okay? Now, another thing, there are different hack squats. So there's a linear hack squat, there's a pendulum squat. Those are phenomenal exercises that protect your low back, okay? They protect your low back where you can get feedback to keep your low back flush on the pad. If your bum comes off the pad, you're going to experience back pain. Okay. If you can't get very deep in a pendulum squat or a hack squat that's a linear hack squat, you've got probably tight hips and you got tight ankles. You need to change the angle and probably put something to elevate your heel so that you don't need as much movement in your ankle to get down into the bottom position. Okay. Same thing when you are doing a leg press. If anybody watches me do a leg press, I don't do nearly as much weight as I used to. I still do a lot though. Don't even front. Don't even talk it in the comments. Where's the haters and the trolls? Somebody say something negative. I know you're gonna comment. Help the algorithm. I don't use as much weight as I used to. I used to put like 12 plates aside on the hacks on the leg press. Now I'll do 6 plates per side on the leg press. When I am lowering that, because I'm talking about low back health and a leg press is a variation of a squat, it absolutely is. When I am lowering the weight into me and I'm driving my knees out and I'm opening up my hips, if I don't let that weight push me up into the seat slightly where I rise up a little bit into it, the only place where I'm going to get clearance in the bottom of my leg press is my low back. It's going to round and it's going to come off the pad in the bottom, right? But if I let that weight push me upwards slightly, and it's minor, but you just feel it, you rise up, now the low back stays flat and you're safe. I hope that helped. Did that help everybody listening to that? It's like, yes, the squat is important. Yes, there's different variations of the squat. You should master the squat, but always start in the most simplest version of the squat while advancing throughout the squat. You might not have the greatest leverages to do a barbell back squat. It's not necessary unless you're a power lifter, because nobody's testing your barbell squat max, right? Right? If you don't have the skill, then there's other options that you can use, like a pendulum squat, like a linear hack squat, like a leg press. My clients all barbell squat, but I teach them how. I teach them how with the squat course. So my clients actually go through a very thorough onboarding process where I teach them all the fundamentals of movement. That includes the squat, the deadlift, the rows, yada, 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 all the stuff, all the things, how to breathe, how to brace, how to protect your spine. So they know how to do it and they get feedback from me. So they get taught by me before they move to a barbell, right? Is that helpful? Is everybody digging that? The energy is just a bit different down in the office, isn't it? Isn't it? Okay, IG, I'm bouncing out on you because y'all are just way too quiet over there. So peace out. Okay, next question is, and you know what? One last thing that you can add to that, Dan. There's nothing that says nothing that says it's not an intelligent idea for you to pre-fatigue the muscles that are involved in your squats before you squat. There's nothing that says it's illegal. It's not illegal to do leg extensions, hamstring curls, glute ham raise machines before you squat so that you're using less weight. It's not illegal, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but I still think that movement should be involved in all good programming. Okay. I squat a lot of weight. I used to squat 315 for 12, 405 for a single. What's the Ronnie Coleman? 405 heavy ass pounds. So for me, I have a neck injury. I have nerve damage in my neck. It just beats me up to squat that much. So I don't actually use a barbell squat anymore because my injury is literally right where the barbell sits. And I have nerve damage there, right where the barbell sits. So I just don't do it anymore because that's a little bit of a different issue. It's like I got a nerve that the bar literally compresses on and there's already compressive force on the nerve. No bueno, don't do it. Every once in a while, I just do it anyways. Like to record content, I put 315 pounds on my back the other day and did a squat. One. Got it over and done with. I felt it a little bit in my neck the next day. Anyways, I pre-fatigue myself on squats now before I do squats. I pre-fatigue myself on squats before I do a linear hack squat. Because if I don't pre-fatigue myself on squats before I do a linear hack squat, and I put 200 heavy ass pounds on the hack squat, it still creates compressive force on my neck, which aggravates it, right? So I pre-fatigue. There's nothing wrong with doing that either. Okay. One last thing, and then I'm gonna get to Austin's question. One of the biggest things that causes people to lose their low back in the bottom position of a squat, a couple of things. They don't have the core strength to organize themselves in that bottom position, or they just don't have the core strength in general to even be squatting, period. So they need to work on like stability core exercises, planks, side planks, bird dogs, those kinds of things. The biggest thing is people have shitty ankles. So before I leg press, before I linear hack squat, before I do any squat variation whatsoever, I do a seated calf raise exercise. I also understand all the hate that the seated calf raise exercise has gotten lately because there's one study. Yep. One study that said it was a bad exercise. Cool. Don't care, don't believe it. I don't even care because I don't train seated calf raises, seated calf raises. I don't train them to blow up my ankle. To blow up my calves. I already got nice calves. You should see me in heels. Not actually, but I got big calves. So from all the heavy squatting and deadlifting I did, your calf stabilizes your knee and hip flexion and knee flexion. Okay. So I've got pretty big calves. But what I do is I do seated calf raises before any squat variation where I sit forward, I drive my chest up, I lean forward, I got a straight spine, kind of looks familiar to the bottom of a squat position. And I stretch out my ankles under load, and then I do calf raises. Now, when I go to do my squats or my leg press or my linear hack squat, I've got all kinds of ankle mobility because I trained ankles with a seated calf raise machine in a hip flexed and a knee flexed position, which is where I need that mobility when I'm in the bottom position of the exercise. Boom, I move better. Mic drop. Don't care what Mike Israetel says or anyone else says. I do not make opinions based on one new study that comes out. So seated calf raises all the way. Now on to Austin, my man Austin. Decline bench seems to have largely disappeared from exercise programs. Does it still have a place anywhere? I'm going to say no. Okay, no. I'm not going to say no. But I want to say no so bad. But if you have very weak pecs and you have a goal to hit the lower portion of your pecs and you don't have a cable machine anywhere and you're training at home, still I'm like if and or but this exercise sucks, but everything has a time and place. If ands and buts were candy and nuts, then sometimes you could use an incline, but not really. So never with a barbell, but you're trying to hit that lower pec. You don't have the strength to do dips, right? You don't have the strength to do elevated push-ups, right? And you don't have a cable machine, then I would do it usually only with dumbbells. And that's because dumbbells are the only thing that would allow for you to use a load light enough to increase your strength factors in that movement, right? before you just get rid of it, throw it in a dumpster and set it on fire because you've graduated and you're strong enough to do other exercises, or you got a cable machine or whatever. But aside from that, hate it. I hate it, especially the ones that like you lock your feet up in and you lay down on a bench press and you're like laying upside down. So like trying not to like lose your brain. And you can't arch, so you can't protect your shoulders. Everybody has such bad internal rotation in their shoulders today, unless you're one of my clients, and I fixed that in the initial portions of programming. Shameless plug. But everybody has bad internal rotation. And so like part of the reason I don't want to use that incline bench machine where you lock in and you're using a barbell is you start getting to a point where you're like, okay, I can't get the barbell down to my chest. And the only way to get the barbell down to my chest is to start rolling my shoulders forward ahead of my chest and up around my ears. Oh, now I touched my chest. And you're like, oh, how's your AC joint? Oh, how's your rotator cuff in that position? Oh, how's your neck in that position? Oh, it's so bad. So I hate that. I hate them. I used it all the time. You know why I used it all the time? Because I was stronger and I thought I was badass, but that was a long time ago. So I don't like that machine at all. I don't think it should be used ever, because of the fact you can't change your elbow position. Like you can only change so much of your elbow position when you're doing a decline bench press with a barbell. You can't, like, your wrists are locked in, right? Whereas when you are doing dumbbells, you can change the range and the width of your wrist as you come down into the press before you press off to be in a much better stable position where you're down in the bottom, your shoulders back and down, your pec is stretched out, and you're driving up in this line. Often people just don't have the shoulder mobility for a bench press. So if it's a decline bench press. And then the other thing is like if you got cables, if you got an assisted dip machine, if you got any other piece of equipment, those are so much better. If you don't have the strength for those, then use dumbbells. Was that helpful, everybody? Okay, last question. Say helpful in the chat. And then Dan, sorry, I did see your comment. Balance and bad ankles. So your ankles, those two things have a direct correlation to each other. Bad ankles and balance. Absolutely they do. But there is another podcast where I talked about ankle stability exercises. And then I touch base on the position in the calf raise to help improve ankles a little bit, specific to the squat for you. I saw that comment. I just didn't address it at the time, but I got you, bro. Okay. Anybody watching this who's not in Tom the Trainer's Tribe, make sure you shoot me a message on Facebook. Link is in the description of the podcast episode. If you're on LinkedIn, you can shoot me a message there. Say tribe. And if you're on Facebook, shoot me a message that says tribe. We'll get you in the tribe. We'll answer your questions too. Okay. Okay. So last question from Austin. If you could only choose one for hypertrophy, a chest press machine or dumbbell bench, what would it be? And compare the contrast. Yeah. This is awesome. Because if all we're talking about is hypertrophy, it is a no-brainer, no question exercise for me. Period. And it's a chest press machine all the way. If all we're thinking about is hypertrophy of the pecs, I wish I had one here in the studio. I wish I had one. Now, I believe it's such a powerful exercise that I only have a straight line Smith machine in the studio here in the basement. I have a Smith machine that travels in a straight path. Okay. So I use it always at the beginning of my workouts when I'm working out here, because I don't want to drive 35 minutes to a gym because I live out in the sticks ish. Because the added stability of the machine allows for me to push my pecs to their absolute limit. And that is the limiting factor that stops me from hitting that exercise. It's not shoulder stability. It's not anything but my pecs crying, open mouth crying. Is them just giving out, right? So much so that I am fully aware that my Smith machine is not as good of a range of motion as what I could hit with dumbbells. However, because obviously the Smith machine hits on my sternum when I'm down in the bottom. However, I believe the additional stability and the ability for me to use all of that stability that comes from the machine to smash my chest outweighs the lack of range of motion that I would get a better range of motion with the dumbbells. Now, when I go to a gym, almost always the first exercise that I use in a push program, and I got some decent tatas, I think, that I use for the push program, is a chest press machine. A chest press machine, and if they have it, I am using a chest press machine that has individual levers on each side. Okay. I have a discrepancy. I have a neck injury. I have a nerve damage injury. So like I want each arm working individually. I don't want my left arm taking some of the load away from my right arm. Right. And it all comes down to, if our goal is hypertrophy, how close we approach failure, how intense we train that muscle, how much of actual mechanical tension we place upon the muscle itself is the number. Those are the most important things to make that muscle grow. Put a lot of mechanical tension on the muscle. Get it really close to failure. Okay. Spend time with your mechanical tension. Okay. If I use dumbbells, my rotator cuff is stabilizing my shoulders. My serratus, the armpit muscle, the boxer's muscle, stabilizing my shoulders. My traps are stabilizing my shoulders, right? When I take those out of the equation, they're still involved when I'm using a chest press machine, but they are no longer the limiting factor that causes me to fail on that exercise, right? Because they're just not as important, because I have the external stability from the machine. And that is why, and I don't understand this, because like I'll post stuff like this in my socials. People are like, no, like when I talk about the barbell bench press being not a great chest exercise for developing your pecs, and people like lose their mind, and it's like they're like married to the bench press. You should absolutely learn the bench press. Absolutely, you should. You shouldn't skip it, because the fundamentals of how to work the bench press, when you nail that foundational movement, are going to translate to when you get into a chest press machine and you whoop that chest as ass, right? And you need to learn the fundamental of the bench press, but it doesn't mean that at some point in time, you need to let go of the bench press and you need to let go of the dumbbells and you need to focus on machines, right? Most bodybuilders these days are primarily using machine work. And most bodybuilders, and I know of many big bodybuilders in the industry who, even when they do barbell and dumbbell exercises, they still start with a machine. Why? Because they wind up getting hurt with the dumbbells and the barbells because their stabilizers are the issue. So they pre-fatigue the muscle a little bit while using a machine, takes out the demand for internal stability, for the muscle function, which is how your muscles stabilize your joints in motion, right? Takes that out of the equation, pre-fatigues the muscle that you want to challenge a little bit more, so that when you do work to a barbell or a dumbbell, it's not the stabilizers that are the limiting factor. It's not the stabilizers that cause for you to have an injury. It's that that doesn't happen because like it's the muscle that wears out. Okay. Was that helpful, man? Like, did that help context wise, Austin? Explain the contrast and like why I would prioritize that over the other. All right. So as always, this was a good one. I absolutely love the Q&As. I love answering questions for y'all. If you get value from this, please make sure you share it to your socials. If you're listening to this on the podcast, check the link in the description. As a matter of fact, the link to Tom the Trainer's Tribe will be right in there. If you're not in there, why aren't you in there? Because you get all these awesome answers. And that's it. That's all. If you're watching this live, link in the description above is for coaching. Check that out. It's also going to explain to you how and why my coaching works, the principles of which and the problems of which we solve, problems of which I have solved for over 331 clients and counting. Check it out. Link is in the description for help. And you know the drill. Have the best day ever. Appreciate you for listening. Take care.